All right, you lovable, squishy moderates, welcome back to the Political Refugee, where at least I've decided that I'd like politicians to work together for the greater good of the country. Tulsi Gabbard tweeted this out a few days back. Last night, we voted in the House to pass legislation that takes steps toward ensuring transparency and accountability in law enforcement. But it was a partisan vote, just like the Senate. As long as partisanship and divisiveness rules Washington, we won't see the change we need. Now, if I was somebody who had very deep pockets and I wanted to truly make a difference in this country, I would start a political movement. And that political movement wouldn't be hard left. It wouldn't be hard right, although I think it would say that we need safety and security in the country, which is something now that is really being debated by people who I thought had a brain. Okay, I'm just trying to think of the words, but at a certain point you have to say to yourself, do you want anarchy and chaos? Or do you want a country that works together to solve problems? Or do you want to continue to perpetuate things that aren't reality because you're living in your own echo chamber? Tulsi Gabbard, this is again proving that she wasn't, you hear people on the right, or you hear libertarians that say, oh, Tulsi Gabbard had a lot of socialist tendencies. No, what she had was a populist streak where she cared about people who are in need and who are forgotten about, whether that means the people at Standing Rock, the homeless people, or veterans. Okay? And Tulsi Gabbard isn't against all war, but she's against wasteful war. She's against regime change war. And she is the ultimate, as I said in a video, she's the ultimate political moderate. And we need moderates. We need moderation. The reason why we're polarized is that we have polar politicians. We have people who are on the left, who constantly berate people on the right, and vice versa. You got people on the right who look at people on the left and say, you're a socialist, you're a communist, and I will not work with you. But if I were to pick two political parties, the loudest political party is on the left, and what they do day in and day out, is they trash Donald Trump. And I posed this question to a guy who does a channel as well. His name's Charles. And I said, imagine if the Democrats, after losing the election, said, let's do something for this country. Let's try to persuade the president, Donald Trump, to see our point of view. Maybe we work with him on something like border security. By the way, border security is certainly something that we need in the country. But we also need a compassionate immigration system. Both of those things can happen. But the rhetoric on the left is you're putting kids in cages. And that might be true to some extent. It's not as if they're free-range kids that were put in cages like chickens, all right? It's a temporary state that they eventually move out of those cages, but that rhetoric was used and hammered for so long that many people in this country started to believe that, kids were like chickens, like they were being put inside of cages. And it's a temporary holding facility. And if you define a cage like you do, say, a tennis court, because that's kind of the situation, then it's a cage. All right? If you don't, then it's not a cage. But the point is, the rhetoric is so toxic and poisonous to a conversation that nothing gets done. People on the right start to hate the people on the left, and we need transparency and accountability in law enforcement. We do need that. But notice this isn't about abolishing the police. We don't need that. We don't need abolishment of the police force. We don't need it. We need a police force that treats everybody equally and serves and protects their communities. I think something like community policing might actually be a good idea. I know that's a crazy thought because the guy I don't want to vote for, his name is Joe Biden, his campaign has proposed that. And I bet you Tulsi Gabbard would agree with that. Rather than getting rid of the police, we've seen, by the way, an example of this in Seattle, in this CHOP place, which is anarchy. It's anarchy. Here's an example of a community that's not being policed. Most Americans, I bet you over 90% of Americans want a police department. They do want accountability, but they do want a police department. See how those two things can coexist? You can have accountability, and you can still have a police department. Social workers, by the way, are not going to help you if an armed criminal is in your home or is on your property. A social worker is not going to help you. There may be instances where you can deploy other agencies in domestic disputes and so forth, but it depends. If a call is coming in, most likely that is an escalated situation. So a call wouldn't come into the police department if people didn't feel as though someone's safety wasn't at risk. And we're starting to codify language that does not belong in our discourse. The term abolish the police does not deserve to be in our discourse. It just doesn't. It's as if there's somebody on the hard left that is focus testing words and saying, if we do this far left idea, or we propose it, maybe we move the Overton window over a little bit, and what we'll get is a reallocation of resources to things that have nothing to do with policing because the police are inherently bad. I am here to tell you that I don't think the police are inherently bad. I think there are bad apples. Anybody with a brain would agree with that. Walking down the street, look, I get it. Training might need to change. I hate to use the term sensitivity training, but maybe there's something along those lines that need to be done. But Tulsi Gabbard has it right. Partisanship is creating the world we're living in. People don't work together. And because they don't work together, nothing gets done. And because nothing gets done, we have these problems that fester like old wounds, and they reopen. We close them up. They open again. They're worse than the last time. They get infected. And here we are. Here we are. All of these things converging at the same time to create, real problems that aren't going to go away. And politicians, rather than sitting down and saying, you know what, this partisanship crap, we have to stop it. What we have to do is work on behalf of the American people. If it means a Republican gets credit for something, so be it. If a Democrat gets credit for something, that's fine. Everybody is too concerned about being reelected. So if you cede something positive to your opponent, then you're basically saying, oh, I couldn't get the job done myself, so I had to work with this guy. And then the perception might be, well, that guy might be more effective than the guy I voted for, so maybe I should vote for the other guy. And see, who cares who gets the credit as long as something gets done? But that's not how politicians behave. Politicians want the most credit for everything. And This is the grassroots. These are representatives at the House level. That's the person who represents you in Congress. That is basically like your little mini president. Tulsi Gabbard in her district is her own little mini president of the United States in her area. And she gets to go to Washington to represent your interests. And she has determined very thoughtfully that in order to get things done, I've got to be able to work together with all those other little mini presidents from those districts. And nobody seems to want to get things done. They would rather have this thing crash and burn. And this is the plan, by the way, and this is why I don't trust a lot of what's happening on the left, because the left doesn't want to see a solution like this because they're more concerned with anarchy and chaos. They're more concerned with photo ops. They're more concerned with showing people of different races going at each other in one way or another. I mean, I've been watching stuff on the internet, you know, people trying to defend their house and so forth because 500 people walked onto their property. You wouldn't be scared, but the media, of course, you'd be very scared. But the media, of course, is portraying it exactly in the way it wasn't meant to be portrayed. And these people played the game. They donated to everybody. Didn't matter who they donated to politically. They were still going to get hit by the mob because they had stuff. And this class warfare in America has to stop. I understand that the haves don't seem to care that much about the have-nots, but the have-nots can't tear the world down. They've got to behave within a civilized set of rules. And if they don't, it's anarchy and chaos, and people aren't going to put up with it. It will not stand. I'm just saying that. So the summary here is that, again, we have a politician. We have one politician here, and this is why she was so appealing to so many people and remains that way right now, is that this is a political moderate with ideas from both the left and the right in her platform. She's a Democrat, but she's an old-school liberal Democrat, meaning like a JFK type of Democrat. And she is tough, but she's also compassionate. And she's unwavering in what she believes in. And she'll pretty much go to the wall for what she believes in. But she also wants to get along with people. Hence the endorsement of Joe Biden, which wasn't the greatest moment for me in Tulsi Gabbard, but based on her persona, based on what she really is, it was the only place for her to go. She wasn't going to endorse Donald Trump for president. And again, at the end of the day, my criticism of Biden has to do more with the fact that I don't think he's capable of leading the country. That's my overarching fear, is that, yeah, you'll put in a nicer guy, somebody who's basically said nothing will fundamentally change, and you can only hope that people within his administration will be steering the ship, which is a high likelihood. It's just, who does this guy put in power with him? That's a huge question. In any event, Tulsi Gabbard is a unique politician, and we need more people. Look, I'm ready to vote for the moderate party. Who's the moderate party? I never thought I'd say this, and it's very centrist, and some people immediately will say, well, you're a right-winger then if you're a centrist. No, I'm not. I'm somebody who wants to get things done. I want people to work together. That's what I want. And if that's right, if that's because the window has shifted so far over to the left, if that's what I am, then so be it. I will side with people who want to get things done and work together. If you're a Democrat that wants to work with a Republican, I like you. And vice versa. I like you. You're the kind of politician I want to see get into office. And I don't care if it's an R, a D, an I. I don't care about any labels. What I care about is, are you willing to sit down with somebody and work something through. Partisanship is destroying this country. The whole movement, Represent Us, represent.us, that whole movement supposedly is based on getting politicians to work together. Now, it seems to come from a more leftward perspective, but you've got to also get people who are Republicans to see your point of view without being hostile to what Republicans think about issues. And that is out of control right now in the Democratic Party. That I'm not even going to look at you. Nope, not looking. If you're Nancy Pelosi, no negotiating. No negotiating. It's all politics. It's holding the American people hostage. And I would say the same thing, by the way, to Mitch McConnell. He's doing the same crap in the Senate. So you need politicians who aren't just going to lean on their power because they have it. You need politicians who are going to lean into fixing the problems because the American people need it. They want it. We've got huge problems out there right now. We've got a lot of false information floating around about COVID-19. A lot of it. And both sides, unfortunately, have embraced most of it. And there needs to be an investigation right now on how we're counting COVID cases. There needs to be a full investigation. But that's another video. In any event, in my brain, Tulsi Gabbard is the right politician. And we need more Tulsi Gabbards. And we need an independent movement that's not tagged to any party, that doesn't have a name like Movement 4. We need the independence group. We need the moderate. We need the moderate party. That's what we need. I know that's not going to appeal to a lot of people, and we might, the cooperation party, the get-together party, the figure-it-out party, I don't know. The work-together party. It's not really a catchy name, but we need to think on those terms moving forward. All right. I am done. I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Best way to support this channel, I believe, is to use Patreon. At this stage, little Patreon logo on the upper right part of this channel banner. Click on that. That'll take you over to my music Patreon platform. It's me over there. I have a bigger channel there, and thus combining these two Patreon accounts would be a little bit difficult. But if you send me a message and you want to communicate something, I am more than happy to talk politics. Just let me know about, what channel you're subscribed to, and that way I can tailor the conversation appropriately. Otherwise, you might hear a story about Pink Floyd or something, and I think you probably don't want to hear that. Although if you like music and you want to talk about music and it's classic and it's vintage, then I'm your guy, and I talk a lot of different styles too. So in any event, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you soon.